crossing time and space and the ever-dreaded ocean of tears to bring you the latest EverQuest Next news, connecting players to the game they play. This is EverCast, with your hosts Tanin, Flatus, Chewina, and our friend from across the pond, Calbur. On this episode, we'll be fighting it out over our expectations, predictions, and grand hopes for EverQuest Next. Joining us today is a very special member of the EverQuest II community, creator and manager of the EverQuest Wire Network and EQ2U, the premier API character and guild search, Mr. Morgan Feldon. Hold on to your halflings, this is EverCast.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to EverCast. It's been weeks in the making. Thank you for being patient in the chat room. You guys are awesome. This is EverCast, and we are here. This is our prediction show. We are connecting players to the game they play. I'm Flatus. This is my intro. I'm an MMO player by heart. I played for the last 8 years Warcraft, and I got tired of it, and I jumped into EverQuest 1, and I jumped into EverQuest 2. And EverQuest 1 was very punishing, and EverQuest 2 was a little bit nicer to me. And I got into podcasting because I was listening to various WoW podcasts, and one in particular, Vent Chat, and they promoted this show for the last 2 weeks, and I'll throw them out. Ventchat.com. They helped me become a podcaster. They gave me the inspiration to be here, and so you guys can see my face and hear my voice. So next up we have Tanin.
Tanin, you're muted. All right, you got it working, by the way. Anyways, my name's Chewina. I've been playing EverQuest II for a little while now. EverQuest 1 was sort of like a middle school fling. Instead of having friends, I played a lot of that, which was fine for me. I learned Teardal and a lot of wonderful role-playing things, which people still laugh at me for now. EverQuest 2 popped in around 2004 at launch, been playing on and off. Super excited about EverQuest Next. Played a lot of MMOs. I'm not a master of any of them, but at least I can give a broad perspective on everything. Also with us, we have Calbur.
Hello, everyone. I'm Calbur. I'm from Europe. It's 4 a.m. here, so I'm super excited to be here, although a little bit tired. Most people just call me Cal, as chat just demonstrated. It's a little bit hard for some people to pronounce my name, so Cal is easy. My real name is Robin, and I'm about 27 years old. I've been involved with MMOs in general for about 13 years. Started with Anarchy Online, moved to Star Wars Galaxies, EverQuest II, Vanguard, Rift, and those are the major ones. Other than that, I've played most MMOs out there. Besides a gamer, I'm also a streamer. I have a stream on Twitch with a heavy focus on community and viewer interaction. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
All right, Feldon, you're up.
All right. I'm Morgan Feldon of EQ2 Wire and EQ2U, which is the Armory character item and guild lookup site, and now EQN Wire for starting up with EverQuest Next. So let's see, some questions for me. I started playing EverQuest 2 around the time that Echoes of Fade started. So I'm actually fairly, I guess you would say, newer than most of you guys to the EverQuest universe. But so I got into EverQuest, like I said, starting with Echoes of Fade. And so I went to the first fanfare at the time after that. And what I noticed, even before then, is that there wasn't really a news site where you could read what the developers were saying that was putting all the news together in a good format. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to start a website. And at the time, it was just going to be for fanfare. It wasn't going to be afterwards. But I covered, just on my iPhone, the different panels and the different things that were going on, and people liked it, and people emailed me and said, "Well, what are you going? You're going to keep it going, right?" And so I started browsing the forums and putting together articles and some commentary about some issues that I thought weren't being addressed, and it's just grown from there. And let's see. I can read these questions because you guys had some questions for me, so I can read them out if that's what you want.
No, it's all good. So a couple questions just off the bat.
Sure.
How do you go about making a database site with the EQ2 API? I mean, I can go on, by the way, just so you didn't know, Morgan Feldon, he runs EQ2Wire, EQNWire, but he also runs a site called EQ2Wire.com. I want to say that's probably the wrong link. But anyways, it's a complete character search guild database, item database, anything you can think of database for EverQuest II. You can pop in there. I can look up my character. I can see what items I have. I can see what items I'd like to have, things like that. So how do you go about doing that?
Well, it's EQ2U, which is kind of a double meaning. It's I thought of it as EverQuest II University, because you can look up your characters, you can look up your friends, you can research, well, what spells do they have, what AA setups do they have, and that's what people use the site for a lot, is to share AA specs. You say, well, you have a dirge, well, look up my dirge and see what spec he's got. But it's a co-project of me and another player, Death Dealer, and it's funny, at the time that we were developing this, I was living in Denmark, so we were on that 6-hour time difference, and still we managed to put the site together. But yeah, all the data is available either as XML, JSON, or JML format, and we we just started building it. Death Dealer started building it. He did all the database. He did all the back end programming. Being able for people to create an account, log in, add their characters, add their guild mates, their friends, and then what I've done is I've done all the visuals, how it looks, how it's laid out. I really wanted the character window to look like it looks in game. The item window to look like it looks in game. We saw previews of EQ2 Players, which was the official site, which people had been waiting for years for them to rebuild it. And it didn't look anything like what it looks like in game. And I'm like, ugh. So that was kind of my push, was like, I want it to look very familiar to people who play the game. And that's a big thing for me, is player-made content, and I'm looking forward to, and next is, I think if you put players in charge of these different things, who are passionate about the game, they're going to do it right. So.
Well, thank you very much. So basically, Tanin, you haven't given your introduction. Are you a little shy over there?
No, I had microphone muted. I'm still learning all of this stuff. My name is Tanin. That's the handle I've been using online for about the last 2 years now. I got my first start into MMOs with Vanguard, Saga of Heroes. I have not played either EverQuest or EverQuest II, so I guess I feel like I'm the odd man out. But
what are you doing here? No.
Exactly. But I'm really hoping that EverQuest Next is going to be not just the next version of EverQuest and EverQuest II, but also of Vanguard, and incorporating a lot of the features about Vanguard that make it a truly unique game. And I'm so pumped that maybe some of those features will be in the next MMO I play.
Well, fantastic. So we're going to go ahead. This main episode is going to be about our EverQuest Next predictions based on the MMOs we played in the past, based off EverQuest II, things like that. We have a lot of topics set out for you. We're going to be talking about player-made content. We're going to be talking about combat, whether it should be fast, whether it should be slow. We're going to be talking about quests with story bricks, or if quest hubs are a better way to deliver content to the player faster. But before we delve into all that, I think we're going to go ahead and pop up the EverQuest Next video that SOE put out a little bit. So in case you guys haven't seen that yet, you guys can catch up. If we can. We're going to try anyways.
I wanted to bring you in so you could take a look at where we work, what we do, and what it's been like here at SOE for the last few years. Come on, I'll take you to the area. here we are. This is one of the doors into the EverQuest Next area. This has been the black box at SOE for the last few years, and not everybody in the company has access to this. But like we want you to, we figure we got to let you in here first so you can know what's going on, then you can help us out. So let's go in.
So, what do you guys think about that? A lot of information, but no information at the same time. Terry J. Michaels, he's the producer on EverQuest. Have you ever met him, Feldon? Have you ever had the chance of doing that?
Not that I can recall. I haven't talked to him before. So, but that video was, I guess it was kind of what I expected. I mean, at the end, they open the door and you have this glowing light, and it's, it's very reminiscent of Pulp Fiction when they open the briefcase.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep.
It's like, nope, we're not going to show you anything.
But we know it's a kobold in the painting. Isn't that important?
Apparently.
No. What I think the important part is the August 6th. What do you guys think about August 6th? Black Box opens. It's after SOE Live.
Beta test.
Beta?
Beta
People are-
test.
no way. No way.
No way?
I think a lot of people are hoping that, but there's just no way, because that would mean that they're already months in alpha, and I don't think they're even like out of friend of family yet, or even I don't think they're even in friend of family yet. So it's probably something else big. It's after SOE Live, so more information wouldn't make much sense to me. So I'm guessing maybe first gameplay footage.
So you don't think we're going to have any gameplay footage at SOE Live, or you think that they're just going to put it out on the internet after SOE Live?
That's what I'm thinking. Yes.
I would
So,
imagine
10 hours of panels?
First, and then sad people like me in Europe have to wait a little while longer.
I
mean,
think they have to show some footage at SOE Live. They have to.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see at least a 5 or 10 minute trailer, just to get to blow everyone's minds, and then we'll have these panels. August 6th, I don't know. I have to agree with I can't imagine it being beta. I can't imagine. I mean,
It is.
It's
Yeah,
only
that's
been-
quick, isn't it?
I mean, we're
Well-
talking what, 2.5 years since the reset. You can't develop an MMO this size in 2.5 years. I don't care how good you are.
What if it's player-created content, though? What if that's what they're relying on to make the game? I mean, PlanetSide 2, they had pretty much a 2-year development cycle. They released it. They had one SOE Live where they kind of showed it for the first time. And then like 4 months later, they started a beta, and then that went about a year until launch again. So I guess that was 3 full years since they released it. But then again, they're being a lot more black box about EQN.
Not to take anything away from PlanetSide 2, but I think a project like the next EverQuest is much more undertaking, and yeah, I think we're at least 9 months to a year away from actual beta. Not to bust anyone's bubble, but I wouldn't expect to be playing anytime soon.
I mean, I
Sorry.
agree. I mean, EverQuest. I mean, PlanetSide 2 is a great game, but you don't have hundreds of quests. You don't have all these races, all these classes. So,
Well, see, and going back to that video, having the kobold in the painting, does that mean that that's going to be a player race?
Well, does that mean I cannot count on my froglogs, fairies, and more importantly, gnomes?
You
I
can
need
go to
to
the
have my
fairies,
gnomes
that's
now.
fine.
Well, I
and
think
yay Ratonga.
Well,
Every is cool.
I think it's not necessarily that if it's not in the painting that it's not going to be included. I think that it's going to be that if it's in the painting, it will be included, and therefore kobolds as a player race. Right?
I don't know. I'm kind of taking it for what it is, which is a nice piece of artwork,
Yeah.
but may or may not reflect what the game is actually going to be.
So
I don't know.
I disagree with y'all. What do you think, Vladis?
I agree. I think there's gonna be a kobold in that game. I really do. I think and it's a great way to go because unless they add a new race in EverQuest 2 right now, that's the kobolds, and that somehow opens it up for EverQuest Next. It's a great little. It's something to just kind of wet the palate before SOE Live. And it's great to do that. It's something like, we hid it in there on purpose. You had to slow down the video just right to get it. and it was a kobold. Everybody was fighting on Reddit about it. It was a honey badger at one point. It
That was
was a
confirmed.
it was a mutated Ratunga at one point, whatever that would have
Yeah.
looked like, and something else. I don't even remember what the third one was.
Well-
And that being said, you need some. You need like. I'm okay with the black box. I like it. I like the idea of the black box. It's intriguing. We're not just saying, hey, here's our game. It's like there's an air of mystery behind EverQuest Next, and that I think is making people go anywhere they can to get anything they can on the game.
Yeah. Okay, so that's my perspective about the black box opening, about this whole marketing. This generates a lot of hype out of nothing. Okay, I don't know if you've been on MMORPG.com or anything, but there are so many topics about nothing that we know about this game, just arguing about what it should be, what it shouldn't be, what it could be. And that leads to kind of people just getting their minds blown up a little bit. You might be set on a topic, and then if it comes out, you might not be as happy as you were if you didn't kind of get hyped about it. So I think they will have to have something playable at SOE Live. Smed was quoted, of course, that infamous quote. Smedley said that we'd have something by the end of the year. He could have been talking about a beta. He could have been talking about SOE Live. He also said it would be playable. I believe, Morgan, you were there. Was that 2011, last year, when they said, oh, we blew up everything, but don't worry, it'll be playable at next year's fanfare.
Right.
It
He
has
said
to
we would be
there.
able to touch something. So
Yeah. So
And,
we,
he- and, he-
it
and
needs
it's not a
to, I
beta.
think it needs to
EQ
happen
Next.
though. I think people are gonna start getting mad. They want to see what it is. They've kind of been pulled around on that string for too long, and I think it's. I mean, if you're gonna advertise a big reveal like they have been, show it at E3 secretly, but then advertise the big reveal
Yep.
later that summer. It's got to be huge. It's got to be big. We're gonna have to see it. I think we're gonna have to be able to play it, and I think they're gonna try and push an open beta, or not an open beta, but a closed beta. I guess around August 6th. That seems crazy. How do you announce a game and then like 2 days later go into open or any kind of beta? But then again, who the heck black boxes a game but then advertises it and markets it about being in a black box as much as it did? Usually studio
right.
just remain quiet about it. So they have to be doing this on purpose.
Well,
Right.
I mean, and I'll come from just mostly my World of Warcraft background. Take Mists of Pandaria at BlizzCon years ago, because they didn't have one last year. So the year prior, in 2011, they had a working model of Pandaria. It wasn't what the game is now, but they had the Pandarian race. You could go through kind of the starting area for the Pandarian, and you could go and do that, and they had that ready. Now, whatever is going to be on the 6th, I don't think it's going to be beta, but I think it's going to be maybe a beta announcement and a release date, or a release date window, like where they're aiming. And that's totally possible. And there's not to say that what they have already is not playable. They may have something playable. I don't think it's going to be playable at SOE Live, but they have something.
Right.
go ahead.
The optimistic frame of mind tells me, hey, beta test, August 6th, that's what they're going to do. And then there's the more realistic part of me that's like, no, August 6th, that date is something else. It's probably going to be something like that, where it's this is where we're going to announce our timeline. This is where you're going to be able to sign up for the beta test.
I think that's possible.
On August 6th.
I think there's a couple things they could do on August 6th without it being beta. I think they could do a character creator. They could kind of go the score route. EverQuest II to that.
Yeah.
And I think they could.
That.
I think they could release some toolkits for players to start creating content. Maybe even release some player studio templates, just to get people started working on things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and delve into our big topics. First up is virtual world versus a game. Sandbox is all about bringing players together. We all love MMOs because it allows us to kind of reach out to new people, meet new people, and interact in ways other games do not. So what do you not want to see when it comes to making the virtual world? Let's go ahead and start off. Robin, what would be the one thing that you would hate to see in the game, and why is that? What do you hate about MMOs currently?
What I currently hate about MMOs is how static the world is. As I said before, I originally came from like my first MMO that I really loved was Star Wars Galaxies, where everything was like basically generated by players. You had players, you could set your own shops up, stuff like that. And like if you look at games the last few years, it's what I would call like theme park. You go to a theme park, you do everything in a theme park, you enjoy the rides, you do the quest, and you move on to the next theme park. And you do about 12 theme parks, and then you're done. And then you create a new character, and you do maybe a different path through the theme parks, or you do a few different alterations. And that's pretty much the end if you're not into raiding or anything, but let's not get too far into that. So what I would like to see is an actual like changing, evolving world where I as a player have actual influence on what is going on. Let me like build a town. Let like the AI destroy a town. Send your crafters there. Have your crafters build a town. And
Absolutely.
keep stuff busy. And
Do you think there will be instances then? Because I don't. I mean, there's other games that kind of have open world creation, but how do you do it to a level of immersion that they need for an RPG?
I think players worry a lot more about instances than actual developers. I think if you set as a design goal where we're going to do it all seamlessly in an open world, I think that's a possibility. You just have to come up with smart solutions for it. I'm personally I'm not a fan of instances. If it was up to me, I would go back to like open world dungeons as well.
Yeah.
Like have people like socially interact with each other. Like, wait, you're going right in this dungeon? Okay, fine, we'll go left. Stuff like that. I mean, I miss that stuff. I really miss that stuff. I also miss fighting respawn and
Yeah.
aspects like that.
Going back to Vanguard with the non-instance dungeons, right? I'm running around on my high level tune, and I run into a party of low levels that had just wiped, and they're like, "Could you help us? Could you res us?" Because it was like a 30-45 minute, run to get back to where they wiped in the dungeon. And I think that really adds to that community, that social interaction with one another. So I'm not a fan of instances at all.
Well, you could play the Elder Scrolls Online. I've heard that's a heavily instance. How do you release a new game like that?
I'll jump in now. My thing with the open worlds, what I would like to see happen, at least with the open world, I don't want to see. I think you can create a world that uses both an instance and an open world feel. I believe dungeons should be open, because when you go into a dungeon, somebody should be in there. Like, somebody's already delving into that place. Now, you could also work at that there should be other channels that you could jump to. Other games have done this where you can say, well, there's too many people here. I don't want to wait for repop. Let me select a different instance of this dungeon that's still open in this world, and I can get into it. And I can still enjoy my time here. If I don't have a lot of time and I only have so much time to run, I don't have the time to wait for this to repop, or if they're going to keep slamming, mobs and bosses, and I may not get a chance to do this. They have to figure out a way where you get the best of both worlds. And
I don't really agree with that though, because when you do that, you cater to everyone, and I think that's like channels is a nice idea because that's because like you have load balancing and everything, but you also like don't really create connections with people. You don't go to this place and there's like the same group of people always there in that place because they might be in different channels, or you have to like explain people how to swap channels. I've played games with them, but I never really truly enjoyed them. And like, let's face it, after a game has launched for a while, in like all the current games that use channels, there's only one channel anyway, after launch.
Yeah. Well, I think a channel is more not really a design decision for like gameplay. It's kind of a technical limitation. How many people can I have in a zone? Make a separate channel for when it gets filled up. But that's the beautiful thing about Forge Light. At least we've seen so far. We don't know exactly how to play an EverQuest Next, but that thing's massive. It holds tons of people in a small space.
You can have hundreds of players, yeah.
I mean, it's not the best optimized as of right now, but
well, can I jump in on something that Flatus said, and that is that you have to step back and look at what are the problems with contested content that haven't been fixed. One is repops are on a timer. It's exactly 4 minutes. It's exactly 5 minutes. Well, that's great if everything is tuned for 2 or 3 groups, but then later on, people have moved on to other content, and now that zone is empty, and 2 or 3 people try to come in there to do it, and they can't do it. Or the converse is when it starts out, there's 5, 6, 7 groups, and the repops aren't coming fast enough. So to me, the issue that they have to fix is, I would love to see almost everything contested, very little instances, but they're going to have to make it so that things scale. They're going to have to make it so that things adapt based on the number of players that are present. Otherwise, yeah, it's very fixed.
And if I can jump in, more importantly, like scale correctly, because if you look at, and this is not an easy task, but if you look at games that have tried to do that, I'm thinking of Rift dynamic events, Defiance dynamic events. At the end of the day, they advertise that they scale. They do actually scale, but they do not scale well enough for the player to actually get the proper gameplay experience out of it. Meaning that if you have too many people, it becomes way too easy. And if you have too little people, it's actually nicely balanced. That is usually where it goes wrong. And if they fix that, I think that will definitely be a huge plus.
Well, EverQuest II did this. They came out with kind of their equivalent of Rift, which was the public quests. And it worked well, but there was no gauging. I mean, they had some scaling, but there was no gauging of participation.
And it was like a public raid, yeah.
Well, anybody that was just standing around AFK got credit. And it wasn't actually a huge deal for me, but it became this huge thing. You had players on the forums emailing devs saying, hey, look, this person is just standing AFK, they shouldn't get any reward. And they spent months rewriting and changing all that code to try to calculate based on people actually participating. And it never was really that successful. So it's a very difficult project. But if they could get dungeons that really scale and really are based on the number of players that are actually working in that zone, it would be fantastic. I would love to play that.
Okay, going with that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Robin.
Well, I see Chad talk about search, but I think what we more mean is like being able to support multiple groups, right? I mean, personally, I don't enjoy running around with 18 people just killing random stuff. Like if it's actually raid content, I'm all for it. But if it's just normal content, then doing it with more people doesn't make it more fun for me. So I think the ultimate goal is tuning it for multiple groups instead of just one big group.
I'd like to shift it based on what we're talking about, just a little bit of discussion. We're talking about combat. I think that's mostly what crosses everybody's mind when they think about an RPG first. Crafting, they've said that crafters, they hold it together. Crafting's always fun, sometimes. A lot of games, it's not really that fun. It's more of just an endless grind. But right now, more games that come out, they seem to be centered on the combat. Rushing to max level, killing every single mob you can find to get the XP. You're basically rewarded for just non-stop grinding of combat. Do you think that's how the future of MMOs should be? I think that's kind of what's gotten us in this rut about in-game content. It's not about the journey, it's about just the end. When you focus on combat, you kind of focus on, it's sort of a single-minded approach. Someone wants that gear more than somebody else. So it doesn't matter how much you want those people to work together that are in the group. They're all going to have that mindset where I should go first. And it kind of creates a little, it might be, very not coherent or anything, very, very minimal, but I think it's toxic. And I think if you focused or refocus, maybe EverQuest Next will and can, but if we can refocus MMOs around player-created content and just the experience itself, not worrying about going out and getting to level 100, not worrying about raiding that dungeon for that level 100 scepter, but being able to get a player to create it for you, then that takes the need off of instant pops, things like that, because you're kind of shifting the dynamic of how the MMO works and how people engage in the world. What do you guys think about anything like that? Do you think EverQuest Next will do that approach?
I have one thing that's kind of comparable, and that, and I hate bringing up WoW, but there is an achievement in World of Warcraft called Herald of the Titans, I think it is. And it is to defeat an end game raid boss at level with no higher level, basically without power leveling your character. So if you go past that content and then go back and try and do it, you can do it. and you can clear it, but you can't get that title unless you do it at level with gear that is appropriate for that difficulty.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I think that's a pretty innovative approach, and I don't know why WoW hasn't tried doing more of that to try and get people to say, "Hey, this is difficult to do at this point in time. Why don't you do it at this point in time and stop rushing to the end?"
In my opinion, it is less about combat though, and more about like interaction between both players and what the players choose to do with their online experience. And this is where your crafting part comes in as well. You have people who enjoy crafting. Now, in the last, well, I would say 6 years or something like that, there has not been a game with like a proper crafting system that is not running in a niche market.
Yeah.
But
I-
if they would bring that back, like, and I would say make everything crafted, like make bosses. Most bosses just drop components which you would then turn into weapons. Or
That's
whatever.
a great idea.
But
That is-
have like combat and crafting linked up. Add like social classes, social professions is maybe a better term. Link that up like we used to do in Star Wars Galaxies. I'm thinking entertainers. I'm thinking dancers.
You can get rewarded for
us-
giving that so.
Give us the tools to just do tasks in the game and worry less about actually fitting us in a box like we're just killing stuff or we're just crafting.
Yeah.
Just give us the options to do stuff, and that can be like in one person's eyes that can be trivial, standing in a cantina all day, dancing, chatting with people, or sitting in a starport trying to buff people up, stuff like that.
No, I'm totally with you. My first MMO character was in Vanguard, and I hit max level crafting months before I hit max level adventuring. And I'm not saying that one was more fun than the other. I truly enjoyed adventuring, but crafting was what I'd come home from work and I'd sit down and I'd craft because I could do that kind of, doing with whatever else I was doing at the time. And in Vanguard, that was one of the advantages, is that you could make a name for yourself being a crafter because only crafters could build houses and only crafters could build boats, and so they could become important people, just like the raiders were. Like, oh, this is the guild that killed this raid boss. At the same time, there was this guild was the first guild to get their to get their guild hall up, and they could only do it because of their crafters.
I think if Smedley were here, he'd yell emergent gameplay right there. No, but I seriously think that's what it's about. I think it's about letting players interact on almost it doesn't have to be system level. People don't need to make the items in the game. That's even greater if they can do that. But players need to not be restricted. They need to be able to go out and explore. It shouldn't be a guided experience. I think the best gameplay experience comes when you're doing something completely stupid and you find something, and that turns out to be the greatest thing you've ever seen in the game. And you feel even better because you feel like you actually explored it. I think that's huge about an open world.
Yeah, and I don't know how Storybricks works entirely yet. I've seen the video, I kind of get it, but I haven't seen it in game, and no one has, except people at Sony, and yay for them. I haven't, but I would love, in my mind, for it to work kind of like a D&D sort of setting,
Would
where
it be beneficial if we explain to people what Storybricks is a little bit?
Yeah,
sure.
Anyone
Sure.
want to dive into
Want
that?
me to do that and then give it back to you?
Sure.
Okay. So Storybricks is a company that was recently released that they're working very closely with SOE, which addresses like one of the major concerns that I personally have, is that we're like stuck on rails these days in MMOs. Developers build the content, we play the content, usually like in 2 weeks, and then developers build some more content, and usually at a pace that people feel the need to whine about. So, like, that is basically the problem at the moment in like all MMOs in my opinion. So, what is Storybricks? Storybricks is started out as an MMO project. I think it was on Kickstarter, but it didn't reach its funding. And they moved more to a middleware solution where they're actually, basically selling their tool set to other developers. And what that does is like what I can find about it is that it is all about user-generated content, and I think it's called emotional AI, which basically means that players get the tools to make the user-generated content, but also to like create characters that like remember your previous interactions with NPCs, have a certain mood, react to like you, like are they scared of you, are they like friendly to you, but also how they interact with other characters. Keep in mind that this is not like officially like what they're doing for EQ Next, but this is just like what the company Storybricks is like working on and what their vision is. You're welcome to take it over, Flatus, now. Over.
All right. And based on what he says, let's say, you know, and anyone in the chat, or you know, myself included, or anyone here, if anyone here has played Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or any pen and paper game, the best stories come from a GM or a game master or dungeon master who writes his own story. And because when you go on that quest with your group, how you interact with the environment and the characters he's created in game can change. He's written kind of like the paths that you can take, but based on your choices, it can change. And on a fly, that needs to be taken into effect by the dungeon master or Storybricks. Storybricks would, you know, if there's a way, let's say if I go into a dungeon and for crafting purposes, and I'll stick to the crafting thing. Let's say, you know, we'll use the emotional AI. Let's say if I'm bartering with a townsfolk, and I'm bartering from the wood I've collected, and I've angered him. Now, if it's truly emotional, you know, I should now be hated by that guy, and now my stuff should not be sold to him, and or he'll charge me premiums on stuff, especially if he's the only person there. And I think that's gonna create, you know, a better way of treating the economy, because if it is a fantasy world, which Norath is, you want that. You know, it's not like, hey, how's it going? You know, you can anger people, you can upset people in the real world, and they may not. Yeah, they may never want to deal with you.
Mhm.
They may never want to deal with you ever again. And I think that's an important part. And if Storybricks can take that and add that to crafting, that's really cool. I have something else with Storybricks and questing and stuff. We'll get to that. But, you know, at least for the crafting part, I think that would be really cool. I would like to see that.
How far would you guys want to see that go? Because I mean, I'm thinking of like event building, like we were able to do in Star Wars Galaxies, quest building, like you're able to do today with like the mythic types of games, like the Foundry in Neverwinter, or like even further, like dungeon building, raid boss designs, stuff like that. I mean, obviously there are a lot of concerns about that, and I think we should discuss that a little bit as well. But like, how far would you want to see that go?
I definitely want to see a dungeon maker of some kind. EQ2 started to do it, but I think they're going the right route with bringing in an outside company with Storybricks. Because, Dungeon Maker, you know, when we saw those previews, I guess it was 2 years ago at SOE Live now, we saw those previews of Dungeon Maker, and it sounded fantastic. And it was funny because they showed us these overhead kind of wireframe views of two different dungeons. And I saw those wireframes, and I jumped to conclusions, and I said, oh man, we're going to be able to rearrange rooms and actually build, you know, a layout. No, that's not what happened. You get 6 presets, and you can place the mobs, and that's it. So
I'd like to see it go way further than that, where you can actually write in, you know, like emotes or a story to go along with you, like your dungeon that you're designing yourself. If that's what they put in the game, then I don't want them. I don't want the skim of it. I want to see the in depth. This is my dungeon that I've created, and this is a story to go along with it. And if you get a couple hundred players all doing that, then you'll never run out of content.
Well, when I saw this, I was ready to invest hundreds of hours building zones, building encounters. I mean, I wanted to be able to take a boss, place them there, put two ads, link them together, right click on the boss, and actually go through menus and say, okay, I want him to have this effect. I want him to have this effect, because they have presets for all of that they they have all these packages that they put on mobs. Just give us accessibility to that so that we can go in and say, okay, this boss, when he gets to 50%, he does something crazy. When he gets to 10%, he does something else. I mean, it's not totally open-ended. It's not totally scripted like Neverwinter or hopefully Next, but it would have given us some real, and I'd love to have dialogue as well. Absolutely. Tell a story. You go into a room and, the boss starts monologuing, and you get a story out of it. And some keys and traps and locks, and there's so much that they could do.
Traps and locks. Hell yeah. I want something fun.
Right. See, I have enough knowledge and enough spare time to want to make an MMO, or not an MMO, but a dungeon. But I don't have enough spare time or the knowledge to make my own game. So give me something that I can work with, and someone out there is going to make amazing content that will blow us all away. They just need a few tools to go along with it, and they don't need the whole baggage of trying to make their own game to go with that.
Well, look at EQ2. You have decorators who are editing XML files just to place items inside of each other or buried in the wall. Or I mean, you look at some of these decorations, and they have houses that are not possible with the game engine. They're doing them in a hex editor almost.
I want to see. There is a character in Vanguard who decorated her guild hall, and she made a fish tank. Fish tank's not in the game, but she had the right boxes and the right items to be able to place it and float them around and put them into space. And then as you're running through, you look over, it's a fish tank.
There's a lot of those in EQ2.
Oh my god, so much pinball machines, you name it. EverQuest II has it.
and the Star Wars Galaxies as well. I mean,
So imagine opening that up.
Even with the minimal tools, people would
exactly.
So imagine if we had good tools.
Yes, exactly. Give them system level tools to interact with the world. Place NPCs. How those NPCs. The cool thing I like about Storybricks, to stay on topic, is that NPCs can interact with NPCs unscripted, and have different interactions with other NPCs based on the assets that you give them. So Storybricks, a developer or a player, depending how far they go with this, they can basically assign the NPC, oh, you like royalty, you dislike the poor. So if you come up and they look at you and they don't like the armor you're wearing, they could dismiss you as a peasant. And someone else comes up with a lot of money, they could offer a quest, stuff like that. You can create a dynamic world, or hopefully can create a dynamic world where content doesn't necessarily have to be delivered from the developer right away. They can set up these tools, and these interactions can guide a myriad of different possibilities for quests and different possibilities for interactions. Imagine with combat, just mob AI. Imagine not mobs standing around and you walk through and you're trying to avoid them, trying not to kite them in.
Please,
that is so stupid.
Just
1999 much?
around.
For real, exactly. So imagine you walk into a town. Imagine that there's not just a hub of monsters, but they're a faction. Smed said factions are going to be really cool. He tweeted out that you're going to like what we're doing with factions. What if NPCs had their own real factions, that they went out and conquered lands, and that they fought other NPCs? Those NPCs fought players in cities. Players create their own factions, and then they could fight each other's players. They could fight the other mobs. Then that creates a kind of meta game to it all, without even it's huge possibilities. But the real reason I'm talking, I want to bring up, how do you relegate, if you create an open world editor, how do you keep the immersion? How do you keep the content? Norath is a world set in stone, pretty much. We have a very strict idea about what Norath is, what Norath looks like. They said it would be very different, but they still have to keep some kind of theme if we're going to keep immersion. That it's important. How do you do that? Do you instance it? Then that kind of takes away from the open world immersion. That kind of doesn't make it groundbreaking at all. What do you guys think? Do you think it's possible to have high level? How do you weed out the bad level stuff? That's what I'm trying to bring up.
I think it takes a fundamental change in how you write a story into an MMO. Instead of being, the writer is out front and writes the story and the players follow it, to being the writer has to stand behind and watch what the players are doing, and then guide the game from what the players are doing, and kind of go off of what the players are doing, or if the NPCs are interacting with each other, to go off of what they're doing.
See what Tanin just described was Dungeons and Dragons. What you just described, sir, was a DM in Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
That's exactly what they do. And if we can take that and put that into a game, we have a great game. Honestly, you have a great MMO. You've basically taken the human, the writing writer, and you put him into a game and said, all right, follow this person, and anything in the world that he touches, react to it. Like, if I'm on a quest and there's two ways that the quest ends. I can rather take the jewel, and I know some way. I solved the puzzle. I learned the language of the orcs, and I know that's a riddle, and I solve the riddle, and I get the jewel, and I'm good. If I don't know and I just take the jewel, things drop, and all of a sudden statues come to life, and I have to fight the statues. React to what I'm doing.
Right. But is it, I guess the question is that can you do it that way, or is it going to be so complicated and so labor intensive that you can't react, that you have to actually be the person be ahead of the players and guide them through the story? Do you think it's possible for them to guide the game from behind?
Well, years ago, let me put this way. What do you do if the players put together a raid, and this actually happened, put together a raid and kill an NPC that was not supposed to be killable?
What was there? There was a glitch in RuneScape. No, not Ultima Online, where they killed Lord British, right? Isn't that the story that back in the day there was a glitch and Lord British was actually being played by a GM, and someone took advantage of this glitch and killed Lord British. And if you're not familiar with the Ultima world, he's like the ruler of everything, and he's not supposed to be killable, and they did. So
Storybricks gives us possibilities to continually generate content to a point, I suppose. Maybe you shouldn't have to rely on one big mega boss. And if it is, maybe you just should have them in a place where they can't be attacked. Like, if you put them in the world, make them attackable. If you don't want them right there, put them on a cliff where no one can get up there right away. Like, it's not difficult, I don't think. It's
flying mounts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big possibility we'll be able to fly, so that is true. So let's move on a little bit. We talked a little bit about Storybricks, some of the possibilities, some of the downfalls a little bit. I'd like to talk about the combat. Even though I said we shouldn't talk about combat, let's go back to combat just super quick. How do you think it's going to work? They said maybe hotbars, but less skills. Do you think it'll be sort of like Guild Wars? Do you think they'll push it farther than that? Maybe like a Dragon's Prophet combat system, if you guys have ever played that. It's like combo after combo that creates new things. They said there'd be spell weaving. That could be huge.
I think that it's going to be less skills, but what the skills you do have are going to have a bigger impact. And I think that's how they're aiming this. Instead of having multiple skills that do pretty much the same thing, I would like to see fewer skills that are each different but have that bigger. I want to feel weight behind my attack. And I don't care if it's action-based or if I'm clicking something. If I feel that my tune is lifting a heavy hammer and I feel the slam on it, I love that. That is, like, I love feeling like a dwarf picking up a hammer and slamming something in the face. It needs to be chunky and weight behind it.
But challenging.
And it's still challenging.
I am probably in the minority, and I'm also not expecting it from in EQ Next, but I want more ability. I mean, I look at Guild Wars 2, and the combat just isn't there. Because where does the challenge come from? Where the challenge come from is timing your attacks and dodging.
Yeah.
Now, let's be realistic. Like 60% or of the players in Guild Wars 2 and games that use like limited amount of abilities and like highly movement-oriented combat suck at not standing in fire. So like, but I am dependent on those people to do their job because they get like one shot like every time they stand in fire, and I don't have the tools to manage. I don't know, 20 abilities or whatever, manage my cooldowns properly to like compensate for their issues. I mean, I want like a much bigger learning curve. I want like when I play my character for 6 months, I want to be like at the point where I understand my character. Add a year on that, and I want to like bring my character to the next level. And that was something that, for example, with my Blood Mage and Vanguard, I had very strongly. And no game ever since that point, not counting Star Wars Galaxies, had that for me. Where like every day, well, not every day, but every month, you like get a new insight on how you should play your character. So all these games are moving to like less abilities, more understandable, more accessible for players. But at the end of the day, people get bored.
I I'm on the minority, I guess. I want to see less abilities because right now, it's like when I'm playing an MMO, I have like 2 or 3 rows of my keyboard all key bound to different abilities, and I'd like to cut down on that a little bit. But you brought up Vanguard, and what I've been playing it recently again, and what I really love is that they have ability combos that like when your ranger does like critical shot and then serpent shot and then another shot, you add an extra effect to your attack, but it's only you have to do it in that order.
Yeah, it's very limited.
But that reminds me of back like the Street Fighter games where it was like, roll the keyboard or roll your movement controller this way and then do this attack, and then you get this third attack that doesn't exist unless you follow a certain prescript. And so if you understand the encounter and like what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now is my opportunity because now I have this open window to do this attack, and this attack, and then get that big damage bonus or whatever effect that I'm looking to get, that's what I would like to see. A little bit less on the abilities on the keyboard, but more abilities that I can unlock in combinations.
What?
I could see a few less abilities, but I don't want to log into a game that you can win the game with one hotbar. I don't want to do that.
I agree. I don't want the 5 button.
No global cooldown.
No, that is awful.
No.
That is so stupid. Okay,
global
wait,
cooldown.
what? What's wrong with global cooldown?
No, global cooldown sucks. I want to be able to trigger my. I
terrible.
love. Yeah, no, it's bad.
I actually love that part of having certain abilities on global cooldown and others not on global cooldown. And then having a bunch of abilities like on, I don't know, 10-minute timers and just go nuts. Just make it interesting.
Just blow things up.
I mean, this is going to be on the PS4, right? So
yeah, that's
combat that probably.
That's why I think it won't happen.
I hate that.
But global cooldown prevents you from weaving abilities together.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and global cooldown. All right, you want global cooldown? Animation time. That is your global cooldown. In an FPS, how long it takes you to pull your gun and reload. That's a global cooldown. It limits the player in certain ways, but it doesn't have to be so obvious. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you have to stand here like an idiot while a mob hits you. I hate that about MMOs. We always have to put MMOs in a niche. Like, I play MMOs to interact. I don't play MMOs for the combat. If I wanted good combat, I play Dark Souls. I think we could all kind of agree with that to a point. Why do we still have to have MMOs in this sort of sub-market? Why can't they compete with good games out there, these AAA titles that other producers put out? Why do MMOs get away with these kind of stale, stagnant mechanics? I think that the excuse of being an MMO is kind of put behind you. If you can make an MMO FPS with fast-paced combat, FPS is the fastest-paced combat game around. That's a bunch of calculations at once. If you can do that, why can't you make a Dark Souls MMO? Why do you have to rely on these things? The Elder Scrolls Online looks like it has very closely related combat to like Skyrim. If they can do that,
It does. They've actually shown that you can go full first person.
yeah,
and
see, that's fun. You don't have to worry about global cooldowns. You don't have to worry about abilities as much. If the combat is fun, why kind of make a metagame out of something boring?
I guess I haven't seen it yet. I mean, because you have
Yeah.
spells, you have
That's true.
augments, you have buffs, you have procs, you have all these things triggering, and you almost need broadband just to download all the data from all the other characters in the group. It's just so much data. So
It is. That's true.
It's a data problem.
That is very true. We'll have to see how well Forge Light handles its data, which I guess we'll get a glimpse of maybe at SOE Live.
Hopefully.
Well, they got 8 hours. They got to fill it up with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd like to say their next MMO tripe? What do you hate about MMOs? Someone go. This is fun.
Well, for me,
Just one thing.
just one thing. I guess that it's Right now, I think right now for me, it's character like stat caps in games. I don't think that stat caps are just good design in general in games. Like in Warcraft, and it's just because I played it the longest. And Talon could agree with me. When you go to raid, you have to be hit capped. You have to make sure you have your defense cap up. You have to make sure your hit rating. You have to make sure you hit all these
And
caps.
if you're a certain spec, then you have to have all your gear regen to take advantage of your best stat.
Yep.
Period. Otherwise, you're not doing the most damage you can do. And if you're not doing the most damage you can do as a DPS class, you're not committed to the raid.
Yeah.
My
And
answer to
that's-
that to change combat. I'm change it. Get rid of the old combat. It's antiquated.
I think stats need to be removed somehow, or just don't have a cap.
I like stats.
I'm okay.
I think progression's awesome.
I think progression's awesome too, and if I have to go to a pen and paper form of progression, I'd rather do that where there is no cap. You can progress up to whatever the level is at that point, and then you can get weapons that don't really add too much to your modify what your base stats are, but don't really have a cap that holds you back.
Horizontal progression or vertical progression? What keeps players playing? Is it the race to 100, and is that because of stupid gameplay mechanics? Or is it the fact that I can change my character, kind of get differences? Maybe I want to focus on fire for a little bit. Maybe I can switch back to healing a little bit. Should I have to worry about a grind that's set up for me where my player will get this spell, this spell, this spell? Or should I be able to kind of just mix and match, kind of like playing a different character in League of Legends? I could play this character for a while, this character, but have it all on one single character. Which do you think is the better answer?
Oh, I think that in one of the panels, Dave Jorgensen was talking about how if you have one character, he should be able to do many different things. And he didn't say multi-class, but he was kind of leaning in that direction that there should be,
I read it as multi-classing.
But
I did too.
Okay, so you're going to be able to multi-class, okay? Maybe.
Well, I don't think it'll be like Rift multiclassing. I don't know.
It's skill-based.
He said role playing's huge, right? Well, if I'm in an RPG, a real RPG, if I'm getting plunked into a virtual world, I should pop in there without a clue of what I want to do. I should play around. I should learn stuff. And based on the things I learn, that should make up who I am. I shouldn't select, oh, I'm a druid. I'm born a druid, and these are the spells I'm going to know when I'm age 100. That's not how an RPG works. That's so single-minded.
Right.
I don't know.
Here's an example. I would love to see this, right? You're a mage, you're a wizard class, a sorcerer class, whatever, and everybody looks at you and they look at your class description and they're like, he casts magic, he casts spells. And so that's what you do when you're out there in the world. But then you get this, hey, you know what? I'm tired of them pointing out that that's all I have. And you go out there and you trade your sword skill as a mage. And you just spend like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to train my sword skill. And then, some warrior is like talking some smack about you and you're like, fine, let's duel swords. And you beat them because you put
awesome.
You put the time into playing, learning to use that sword, and then you beat him. And then there's that. Yeah, that's me. That's what I just did.
The cool thing is,
how come there aren't any games that do training? I mean, that to me, why aren't there? I mean, to me, I look at my alternate advancement window. Your skill trees, and you go and you grind mobs and you spend points. That to me is not gameplay. That's just like, putting coins in the slot. I would like to see you have to have accomplishments which unlock abilities.
Mm-hmm. Have achievements that mean something, not just a little flashy thing to, I unlocked an achievement, but actually have it be built into a character.
I mean, probably my favorite gameplay in EQ2 was the epic weapons. And I know people say different things about the epic weapons, but I learned something about my class. Mm-hmm. It was tough to do. It was tough to get the groups for it. And at the end of it, you're like, you got something really useful. And I know it was a lot of work. I mean, I think they said it took over 3 months just to do the, do the 24 quests.
That's true.
But I would love to, I've got my skill trees. Here's an ability I want. I can't just spend points in it. I actually have to go and do something to unlock that.
Yeah. Warhammer Online did that a little bit. They didn't really do anything with the weapon. Yeah. I mean, it's sad because that game only lasted for so long, and but they had this trophy system, and where you could actually, if you did like certain achievements, you got a trophy for. You got like remember like early on I played an orc and I was like, oh, it's so cool. I'm an orc and I got a crazy looking shield and I have an axe. I'm set. And I did this quest and I got this achievement and it gave me a trophy. It was this like guy's head and I can hang it off my orc. Like I had a little trophy spot and I can hang trophies and it was hanging off my belt and I'm like, that's cool. That's awesome. That's the best thing ever. I would love to like, listen, I killed this dude. Look at his head. It's right there. And that like little things like that are kind of cool. Like, you know, let me flaunt something. In Warcraft, if you defeated the raid boss, you got the gear set. You looked like that guy. I know he was cool because he's got the big flaming sword and the shoulder pads that spit fire. So I know he's the guy. But I was like, I don't need to be the guy. I need to be the guy with the head on his belt. That's what I need. I need the guy with the head on his belt because I was like, look, I actually killed him. I didn't. This is look at the head.
All right. So one last. Sorry, am I cutting you off?
No, go ahead.
Okay. One last MMO tripe. I think Cal had a really good one that would be a quick little discussion. What do you hate about MMOs, Cal?
Okay, I'm just going to put it like, don't get me wrong, but I hate communities.
You hate communities, but don't communities make the game?
Yeah, no. I love communities, but I hate like what certain communities of certain games are like shaped to be these days. If I look back at the last 10 years or so, these communities haven't been the same. I mean, ever since like those old MMOs, like before, dare I say it, World of Warcraft, where it felt like more family focused.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us can actually agree that like those days felt better. And I think the obvious answer is that that's not really true. There are just many more people playing. So like the bad apples shine more than like where you used to have like one person who was like a rotten apple. You now have like 10 instead, or 100 or 1,000.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. I was going to say it's a lot of. It's not about the family anymore. It's about me, and I stopped calling them MMOs because I started calling me only RPGs.
I mean,
me only.
I just want to quickly respond to someone in chat because he says like communities are what guilds are for. I fully understand that. I've been playing games like with one guild for the last like 10 years, but should it really be that way? Shouldn't there be ways where we can go back to like the old days where you knew everyone on your server, where you knew which people you liked, which people you disliked? And I think there are actually quite a few ways where we can actually achieve this these days. I mean, it all starts, like, in my opinion, with, first of all, awesome community managers who set the tone for the community. They're not like policemen, but they like set the tone. They are like the intermediates between like the developers and the community. But also, like I said, set the tone for the rest of the community. And then I think like MMOs need to kind of stop catering to everyone. Like, you play a game because you like it, and not because like every person can like every game. So I think EverQuest has both those two things. Plus, EverQuest Next has both those two things. Plus that they like, with their sandbox marketing, it feels like they are kind of picking a target group, and they have already a very strong like franchise, like fans group of very loyal players.
Yeah, we
so
have
that's
100
all
people
there.
watching us right now. I mean, that's amazing for a game that hasn't been announced.
Yes.
Or anything. I guess announced, not revealed. Feldon, you have a lot of experience with communities, especially with EverQuest II communities. You know, there's been a lot of difficult times for SOE in the past when it comes to communities. Free to play, you know, they completely lied. They did. They said there will not be free to play in EverQuest II. What happens? Dave comes around. It turned out to be for the better, but he comes around. Boom! There's EverQuest. What did they call it?
Well, it was
separate experience.
It was EQX at first.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a different server, and they kept it separate. And you know, there's kind of a behind the scenes to that, which was that Lord of the Rings had announced that they were going to free to play, and very quickly SOE wanted to dip their feet in the water, and it was very interesting how that went down. But to go back to just communities in general, I mean, you can't force players to behave. I think with a sandbox, maybe you'll see people who are more willing to invest time, which will rule out the people who jump in, yell at people, give people a hard time, grief people, and log out. Hopefully, maybe with that time investment, you might attract a different kind of player. I think one of the big problems, and it's very fundamental, it's very technical, and that is on, at least on EQ2, where do most people chat? Level 1 to 9 chat.
Yeah.
And that is one size fits all. And so you have people who are very negative. You know, they talk politics, which, you know, is fun for about 2 minutes and then you get sick of it. All of these things. And then you report these people and you're like, well, we can't ban those people because, you know, we don't want to, it's not necessarily against the rules. To me, I don't know what the solution is. I would definitely like to see EQ Next launch with 3 or 4 worldwide chat channels, which are kind of different rule sets for the chat channels. So maybe I'm overthinking it, but to me, I would have it anything goes. I would have a lobby, which is a little more locked down. It's like if you start talking politics, you're out of there. Just make it like people can collaborate and talk about the game.
The best community that I was ever part of was after Vanguard's launch, the Craft channel, because those are the players that were just like me, and they were absolutely, like, you know, nice with one another. They shared knowledge because it was a huge learning curve, and I mean, no community or regional chat channel has ever come close to that Craft community, and all of the people that I'm still close with from Vanguard are all heavy crafters that all rely heavily on that Craft channel. We turn off the regional channel and we just talk in Craft, and that's it.
Visible.
I stuck it out as long as I could with the global channels, but it just got toxic. And you know, EQ2, I have to give a shout out because EQ2 does have a global crafting channel, which is the home show channel. So actually, very cool.
I say X global chat. Visibility 0 says it in chat. I know that's a little harsh. That goes out a little bit too much. It might kill it a bit. But just get rid of global chat. Let people, when they get into their craft, get that kind of social community that comes to them. Don't allow them to communicate with everyone in the world right off the bat. Why should you? Can you shout across the world? I don't think you need that kind of level of interaction, because then people don't care about the person next to them. If you cut off that kind of, here's the whole world, this is what they're saying, you're forced to talk to the person next to you. How do I defeat this mob? Oh, I don't know. You search around, you talk to people. It fosters collaboration. I think we need more stuff like that.
I would also like to see, I'd also like to see more rewards for just helping people. You know, you pick the most helpful people on the server and give them just a little something.
That's not bad. Yeah, a little incentivization.
Yeah. I listen. I mean, anybody in chat, if you've played World of Warcraft and I mentioned Baron's chat, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Baron's chat was horrible, and that eventually spilt over into trade chat in cities, and city chat goes to all your faction cities. And it's a horrible place. You have racial slurs, you have people talking about politics, you have people talking about what they think they know about politics, and it's the worst thing ever. And then the only place you'd really need to just stay in is just your normal guild chat, because those are the only people you want to talk to anymore. And there's not even a crafting channel Warcraft, so you're limited to one channel.
Yeah.
So. And I agree with Feldon. I would love to see, you know, better in rewards for people that actually take the time to help the community, because you're essentially taking the time out of your game and showing people the ropes, making connections, and making friends. And that's honestly, I think, one of the reasons why all of us are here. You know,
right?
We're here to play a game together and have fun.
Right, and there was like a fundamental shift between like when I started playing MMOs, where it was like everybody was trying to help each other learn the game because there was so much to explore and discover and figure out, and then all of a sudden it became this game where if they don't know it, now they're open for mockery, and I hate that. It's like, well, how are they supposed to know? You know, why make fun of someone that doesn't know or doesn't understand? You could just tell them. How hard is that?
It's mentality. It's just like Cal said. It's toxic. It's a toxic mentality right now. It sucks.
Let's turn it around.
Let's
And
I agree.
but I mean, to like cut in, like, in my opinion, there are plenty of ways to cut that out. I mean, a lot of these players that are like toxic, so to say, to the community, they don't know any better. I mean, many of them got into, for example, World of Warcraft probably at age 13, age 14. I mean, most of us, I mean, I started young and I wasn't always like the nicest guy. I spoke very little English, but people taught me, people helped me out. And I also find of myself, I don't take the time anymore to like talk to new people, to like try to interact with new people. I tried this with Neverwinter, the MMO that recently got released, and we did a test on stream. Let's just like try to strike a conversation with some random people in Neverwinter. Well, I can tell you that didn't go very well. It was either outright rude, I got ignored, or like 1 in 10 persons spoke like 1 or 2 sentences and then moved on because they were too busy questing. Is that really what we play an MMO for?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm maybe some people will disagree with me, but I also think there are some ways you could like potentially design your game to promote like more social interactions with between players. This is mostly by like just making players a little bit more dependent on each other. Like make it so that you cannot like obtain everything alone. And this is like going to strike a few chords with people, but it doesn't have to like lock you from everything. For example, you can talk to a rogue to unlock a door, or you can go around through the basement, or you can collect like you can spec into a bunch of harvesting professions, but you cannot spec into them all. And you cannot like you're either a harvester or a crafter, or you cannot do both, or you just give a bunch of points and you spend those. Once you have spent those, you can either respec, but you cannot all do it alone. And I think those type of social interactions like promotes people to talk to each other. Like, I'm looking for hide. Can you like collect 500 hides for me and I'll trade you 500 ore? That is how friendships in the past have formed. That's how like people started interacting. And these days we're building all these smart like auctions, exchanges, whatever you want to call them, and you can set up trades. So you never have to talk to a single person. You never have to negotiate about price or do someone a favor. And the last point that I want to make is, and this comes very much back to the sandbox, is I want to have places in the world that don't necessarily have a function for a quest. I want places in the world that are just there for interaction. I'm mainly thinking of, like, I'm again going back to Star Wars Galaxies. I'm really sorry about that, but cantinas, spaceport. I remember waiting a few minutes for the shuttle to come down from my own player city, my own town, to bring me to the main capital. And I would run into a player who wasn't from my city, because I knew everyone from that city, and we struck up a conversation. That guy ended up like coming to settle a house in All City eventually, and I still know him until today. That is how like communities should shape themselves in these days. But yeah, that's I mean, there have to be solutions for that. And if some of those can be implemented in EverQuest Next, then that would be really, really cool.
Okay, so I totally hate to cut off discussion. We're reaching the end of our show, our actual hour formatted show, which has gone over a little hour, but it's our first show. We're having some fun. Basically, the format's going to work like this. Every other Sunday, we'll be live. We'll have a topic set. We'll have a guest host on. Maybe Feldon will come back and join us, I hope. But we're going to be discussing EverQuest Next. That hour is going to be a little more stricter on our form. We're going to try and spice up debate. We're going to try and keep it a little more clean cut, not ramble on as much. Then we're going to have a QA session afterwards. Not all the hosts will stick around, but this is where we're going to kind of just nail home topics that we didn't really get time to discuss about during the main show. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Feldon. He's been our guest host today. He's been fantastic. I'm pretty sure he'll stick around for QA. I hope he will. But sure. Feldon, just go ahead, close us off real quick before we go into our conclusion. What do you want from EverQuest Next? I know this is a big question. Just kind of get the biggest items you want to see in EverQuest Next. What is the extent you think they'll take it? What is the extent you want them to take it? Take it away.
You know, they've done a very good job of keeping it a black box. It's really hard to know. You know, there's been little tidbits on Twitter. Uh, I think that Star Wars Galaxies is going to have some influence. I know that's going to be good news.
Yeah.
I think we're going to. There you go.
No one saw that, but
I think that you know, I mean, we've heard a lot of things. It's so easy to hype things. So I'm trying to keep my expectations not too high. But I really want to. You asked me what I want to see. That's a question I can answer. The other one I don't know. We'll know on Thursday and Friday, Friday. But I just want to see a world that is not compartmentalized. EQ2 has gotten so compartmentalized. You're in your guild hall, you're in your house, you're in your dungeon, you're in your raid zone. You never see other players, and crafting is outside of a few items. It's just all isolated, and I would love to see a bustling community. I would love to get to see that. So that's
All
what I'm
right.
looking forward to.
Thank you, Feldon. Tanin, did you want to go ahead and I'll sum up a quick conclusion about what we expect and what we're looking forward to. Tanlin will be at SOE Live. I'll be at SOE Live. Feldon will be at SOE Live, and Tanlin's wife, Celeste, will be at SOE Live. You guys are welcome to hunt us down. I don't know. We'll talk forever about.
Give him a big old bear hug.
Give
and
us a big old bear hug.
Bear
If
hug, everybody.
You start
So
talking to
Tam-
me about games. If you start talking to me about games at SOE Live, you'll never get me to shut up. And it's the only time I'm the quiet guy at work unless I'm talking about games. But so EverQuest Next, I want to see. I don't know. I want to see this. Actually, no, I do know what I want. Eve gameplay when it comes to like the huge uninstance world where you can go and you can build and you can do whatever you want, and that there is factional PvP, but it's kind of like out there in the outer world. But I want to see it with MMO type combat where you're getting your skills down and you're really learning to know when to use your abilities and when to save your cooldowns. That's really what I'm hoping for.
All right, Flatus.
I would like to see multiple ways to do things, like multiple ways to complete a quest. I would like to see the stat caps gone. I'm big on that one. Just no more stat caps. And most importantly, I would love to see it just to be something special and fun for everybody, and it to be, you know, something we can all play for years to come.
Carl.
yeah, good question. I want a lot. I think mostly freedom in how I create my character. So I'm hoping like skill based. Give me like 500 points. If I use a sword, let me train in swordsman 1 and to swordsman 2. Give me extra stuff like that. That's what I would be. If they announce that, then I will be sold. I don't care what else they do. I'll be buying the game. If not, I'll still be buying the game. But hey.
Yeah. My conclusion, I agree with most of those points right there. But the biggest thing I want to see is I don't want to see MMOs be known for what they're currently known for. MMOs have gotten into this mindset where an MMO is about grinding. It's about promoting collaboration, but it doesn't really promote collaboration. Back in the day, 1999, I've read a lot of studies actually in communications about MUDs and virtual worlds. And it's basically, I look at games, I look at the possibility of an MMO to be the one place in our life where we can literally just play. We're not restricted by things. We can communicate with others. We can build things. We can destroy things. I think that's what a virtual world should be about. And I think that's what MMOs should deliver. We have games for everything else. We have hundreds of FPSs. We have hundreds of single player RPGs. Why are you trying to kind of take all that and put it into one game? I think we need to kind of move away from what MMOs currently are and make them old school again. Maybe I'm just an old school lover, but honestly, the best experience I've ever had in an MMO was when there was no designed experience at all. You put me in a chat room, you put me in this box, and just let me play around with those who are there. And you give me the tools to play around in ways that I've never done before. That's what I want to see in EverQuest Next. That's what's going to make me excited. If not, I don't know. I don't think it'll be another game I want to play, because right now I don't want to play MMOs anymore. So, anyways, kind of a negative look at it, but thank you all for joining us for EverCast. We will be back not next Sunday, but the Sunday after. As I said, a bunch of us are going to SOE Live, and everyone else will be watching, so we'll have tons of things to talk about, and we'll really dive into business decisions. Did SOE make the right choice? Did it work out the way they planned? Did we like what we saw? Is everyone mad, or is everyone happy? They have a lot riding on this. They chose to be very, very secluded about what they're doing. They chose to drive the hype up. They're going to either succeed or fail, and there's not much in between or gray area for them. It's going to be huge. They need to make it well. I've watched a lot of SOE lives in the past. The last SOE live, they tried to live stream for the first time. It just wasn't well executed. They have a lot of amazing ideas, but they don't actually fully execute it the way they need to actually have it come across to the majority of people watching. I want to see them nail that home. I want to see them succeed. I love SOE as a company, and I want to see those big ideas come into reality. Anyways, thank you, Feldon, once again for joining us. Thank you, Call. I don't know if you're going to bed. Flatus, Tanin, we are going to convene for about... Great.
I'll be sticking around.
Me too. 5 minutes, give us 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and hit up our splash screen with some background music for you. We'll be back in a little bit to discuss kind of our own intentions and the things that we didn't really get to talk about yet. Maybe get a little crazy with Kyle wearing a dress. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. This has been EverCast. Hope to see you next time.
I thought it was a gnome speedo.